It's a Christmas miracle. The Dallas Cowboys win. We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's episode, we are breaking down the Cowboys' Week 17 win over the Washington Commanders, 30-23 on Christmas Day. And Landon, before we start, we're doing this on Christmas Day. You can hear the excitement and the joy in the background. But we're also really fired up about our Cowboys, who got a nice win. I know it's late in the season. It doesn't mean anything. It's at least better to see them have, play some better football, which they haven't done in about a month now.
Yeah, last part of the game was a little bit frustrating at certain points, but to walk away with the win is certainly better than to walk away with the loss on Christmas. So, especially against a division rival. So, 10,000-foot view. We'll talk about the details and all the goods and bads here, but just to get a win on Christmas is always very nice. And also, real quick, just so I can say, Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of our followers. It feels like y'all are family because we've been doing this kind of thing every single year. So I hope everyone's enjoying their holiday as well.
Yeah, that is why I'm wearing this ridiculous pajamas, because it is Christmas. We're recording our show. Let's talk about some of the more interesting things that happened this game. And I actually want to start with an underrated player, Malik Davis. He had to come into this game and basically play from the second quarter on. Javonte Williams got banged up early in this game with a shoulder injury. He got hurt on the touchdown run, never played again. Malik Davis got 20 carries for 103 yards, had a 21-yard run. Did some okay work as a pass blocker. We've seen more of Malik Davis over the last month, and every time he's played, he's given you quality running back performances.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Marcus, but I'm also going to have to include my guy, Hunter Luepke, who also added another 7 carries for 30 yards. I mean, between the two of them, they I think it was the total numbers were 27 carries, 133 yards, have been averaging basically 4.5 yards a carry. That's what you need when your backup running back gets hurt and your conglomerate of other guys have to step up. Obviously, the vast majority of that was Malik Davis, who made a bunch of several good plays, including a 21-yard run that he added there. But yeah, I mean, just consistently picking up what was there, just not, the run game didn't, necessarily miss a beat, which was important because, we'll talk about it in a sec, that Dak was not necessarily sharp throughout this game. The passing game was anemic at certain points, but the Cowboys offense was able to continue to churn out first downs because they would continuously go for it on fourth down, and because they were getting solid gains out of their run game that was consistently putting them in good position until maybe the second half, where you started to see some more of the penalties crop up. That's when the pressing the issue with the pass game started to have problems, and the run game wasn't quite as effective. But when the Cowboys were able to stay on track and run the football, they were dominating the Commanders up front.
And we should mention, this is the benefit of getting an offensive coordinator in Clayton Adams, who specializes in the run game. You're down, a couple offensive linemen. You've got Tyler Smith playing left tackle. TJ Bass is at left guard. We'll talk about some of their struggles as pass blockers in a little bit. But you were able to run the ball even with Malik Davis, who they signed, was it early in the season, who was in the UFL not too long ago, with Hunter Luepke. Dak Prescott had a couple nice runs. Javonte, I thought, was running really hard in the first half, but it's clear even then he wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
And you ran for over 210 yards in this game. Kudos to the offensive line. Kudos to Clayton Adams. This is what we were hoping to see all year long. And honestly, we have seen it for the most part, as a physical downhill running game. And despite not having your starting running back for the whole second half, you really didn't notice it or feel it too much.
Yeah. Again, Davis's ability to come in here and just make his presence undeniable. Like, because again, like there's certainly a difference between somebody who comes in and kind of just gets what's blocking, but Davis was also on his own, like Williams, creating and causing big plays, and turning 5 yards into 7 yards and eventually 10 yards into 15 yards, So I felt like it was, was performant on big downs when they needed him to be. So yeah, I really was impressed with his ability to kind of come in with Williams, being kind of banged up even early in the game, and just be efficient when they needed him to be, and showing that maybe the Cowboys can solve this running back 2 situation in house, with what they've got between him, Luepke, and maybe a Phil Moffa in the future.
A couple other things I wanted to point out in this game. They also had another injury with Jake Ferguson, who went down with a calf injury, I think shortly after his touchdown. On the season, we've never seen Brevin Spanford play more than 24 snaps in a single game. He got 48 snaps in this game, 20 the pass blocker, 20 was 28 or 25 as a run blocker. I actually thought he played pretty well filling in for Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, he had the big catch and run that was huge. I mean, honestly, what you worry about with him is how consistent can he be as a pass catcher, right? That, like, literally receiving the football is the issue, because he's a big guy who can move once he has the ball, but catching the ball has been an issue just in traffic and just a part of his game. Running routes, it's just part of the game that he needs to develop a little bit. But obviously, the rest of it is starter quality. So to see him get these opportunities, get more snaps, I think it's just going to help his development. I'm really interested to see where he develops into next year.
All right, another player I wanted to talk to you about is Jalen Tolbert, who we haven't really seen play at all over the last couple of months. Ryan Flournoy, he was out in this game due to a knee injury. We'll see if he plays in Week 18. But Tolbert opened up the season as the wide receiver 3 for this team, made some big plays this year, including a monster catch against Green Bay. And then he's kind of disappeared. But this game, he stepped up with Flournoy out, made a couple big catches on 3rd and 4th down. I don't know that he's going to return in 2026, but I do think he can be a nice part of a wide receiver room, and it was just nice to see him produce again.
Yeah, it was good to see him get an opportunity, because, again, like, even if he isn't, for here, he's a guy that can play special teams. He can go out and he showed you that he can go out and make catches when called upon. I think, he's an NFL wide receiver. I just don't know what his future looks like, but it was good to see him kind of get out there and add to his resume and make his case for maybe another team in 2020.
All right, we're spreading holiday cheer. We're trying to be positive, but we need to talk about this Cowboys team struggling in the second half of these games, Landon. What in the world is going on after 24 first half points? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. And live betting is at the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up, and you can bet on next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and so much more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to stay right in the middle of the action this football season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. NFL season is in full swing, and there's nothing better than being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and cheering along with all the fans makes the experience what it is. Watching at home is great, but being in the stadium hits different. But the frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change at checkout. But that is where the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack of unlocking amazing NFL tickets and the experience in just a few taps. I just pulled up the Game Time app today to check out some upcoming games, and I found a great ticket almost instantly. Thinking about going to maybe a couple of Bills games to finish out the season, and it's so easy. My favorite part is that you can get the exact view from the seat in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying some NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That is Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking you what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club, ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. And subscriptions can be gifted through the LockedOnCowboys.supercast.com link. And for those of you on video, you can make your second listen to the Locked On NFL podcast, and we can also send you the 24/7 national YouTube channel. Blaine, let's talk more about the Cowboys offense. It's hard to criticize a unit that had 480 total yards. They had 28 first downs. They had 90-something plays run. They scored 30 points in a game. And yet we're going to do it because this is the second week in a row. The offense has really, really struggled. They already had 24 points in the first half. They get 2 field goals in the second half, and that was it. It kind of came to a screeching halt. What is going on?
Yeah, it's weird to hear that all kind of laid out because, you watch the game and clearly, especially in the second half, you could tell the game kind of got really sluggish. I think the truth of the matter is that the Cowboys offense, especially the passing offense, really struggled throughout the game. Obviously CeeDee Lamb and Pickens didn't necessarily have enormous games. Pickens had a big 21-yard catch at the end of the game to just kind of help seal the deal. But before that, he was sitting at 60 yards. And I think, Lamb had a lot of targets. I think he ended up with 10 targets and with 5 catches. I have to say it felt like a combination of probably pretty good coverage by Washington, because there was definitely times when Dak was standing back there, had time, and had no one to throw it to. I think part of it was that Dak was not specifically very sharp throughout this game. I think that he definitely had his moments, but he also definitely airmailed some easy passes that I felt like he would normally make. And then I think in the second half, they started to get more penalties, and that put them into disadvantageous down and distances, and they couldn't just solve their problems with running the football like they were able to in the first half because of the down and distance issues that were caused by the penalties. So it was kind of a bunch of different small things, but it all added up to, once again, I tweeted this out, Cowboys score touchdowns in both halves challenge. They ultimately did, but it's it's tough because it really doesn't feel like, despite how good this offense is, numeric wise, it feels like you're not ever really getting a full 60-minute performance from this offense.
No, and you're right. I don't think this was a great Dak game. I think this is where sometimes Dak has had these games where the numbers lie and he plays way better than the stats suggest. I can think of a couple games this year, but it's that way. In this game, it's 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and it looks really good on the stat sheet. But you and I watched this game, the accuracy was all over the place, and I think hitting the one big play to Turpin really made you feel differently about this game, because if you remove that 86-yard touchdown, he had 183 net passing yards on 42 dropbacks. That's not very good at all, but again, you don't take away big plays because this is what you're trying to hit. You're trying to hit these 86-yard, explosive play touchdowns that flip games. But I think down to down, they were pretty inconsistent. I actually think CeeDee got open a pretty decent amount. There was a couple times where Dak just missed him. Pickens, I don't want to say dropped the ball over the middle. I think it could have been catchable.
That was a tough one. Yeah.
They just weren't sharp, and I think a big reason why is Dak was feeling the pressure in the pocket. I don't think the offensive line had a terrible game, but I don't think they had a great game as pass blockers either.
I think that they had a pretty terrible game. I was just going to say, coming out of this, I don't want to reach past the offensive line, who I think actually was the biggest problem in this game in pass protection situations.
But watching some of those plays, it seems like it was a lot of times the non-offensive linemen that were screwing up the pass protection stuff, whether it was like Malik Davis or Schoonmaker, or I think we should talk about this. Tyler Smith, I don't think had a great game at left tackle. And I think if you want to point to a game as to why he should stay at left guard, I think this is maybe one.
Absolutely.
But I expected a lot more from this offensive line, given how banged up Washington's defensive line was.
I think this is one of the defense thing, right? Where look, this is the Cowboys gave up 6 sacks. I mean, it was one of the worst pass protection games the Cowboys have had in not just this season, but multiple seasons. And I think that there's enough blame to go around to multiple situations. I think the offensive lineman didn't specifically have a good game. I think Booker had one of his worst games as a pass protector in this game. But yes, I also agree that the another added element besides just the offensive lineman having issues was that this team really missed Javonte Williams. This team probably missed, Ferguson a little bit in certain situations, because I think he's been helpful at times in pass protection. So the pass protection was bad enough that I don't think we need to blame one person. I think Dak Prescott deserves a little bit of it too. I mean, there were certain times when he needs to get rid of that football, right? He needs to find a way to throw the ball away, and he's usually better about that, navigating the pocket, throw the ball away. But I think this is a situation where it was bad all around. Whoever you want to point the finger at in regards to protection, quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive line, I'm certainly going to nod and say yes, absolutely with you.
And again, it's all about our expectations. They had 480 yards of offense and they scored 30 points, right? I think for most teams, like they'll settle for having a bad half where they score 6 points if you score 24 in one half. But I just think we know how talented this unit is. And I think this is what's so frustrating is if they can be a little bit more consistent quarter to quarter. I mean, they could be an offense that's averaging 35, 36 points per game. Now, I know that's maybe not super realistic considering you'd be having one of the greatest offenses of all time, but we clearly see it every single week. Like it's not for a lack of weapons. The opportunities are there. They just they've got to lock in a little better. And I honestly think there's part of it too, where I think Brian Schottenheimer needs to make some more adjustments after halftime, because now we've seen it, whether it's against Detroit or Minnesota, these games where they're just not playing great in the first half. In the second half, they've got to clean that up next year if they want to be a real contender.
Yeah, and just real quick, the reason we're kind of harping on it a little bit too is honestly the most important thing that in this game was that Dak Prescott gets out of this game healthy, and he took way too many hits, and I think that's ultimately why
let me ask you this: he took a lot of hits. Do you think there's any thought to? Okay, now we won a game in week 17. We played we played against or on national TV, Netflix. Mm-hmm. Do we let Joe Milton get 10 days to kind of get ready for this 1 week 18 game? I think it's hard to do it when you have 2 games, week 17, week 18.
Sure.
But we saw Trey Lance start in week 18 last year over Cooper Rush when he certainly did deserve it. Could we see that again this year?
I think we'll find out on Monday if Dak's name kind of suddenly crops up on the injury report.
He definitely hurt his elbow some way in the first half, and he wasn't quite the same after that.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, honestly. And last thing, too, I just want to finish my point before we get to the break. As bad as they were in pass protection, I want to give a little bit of carrot too, right? Not just stick. As bad as they were in pass protection, the offensive line kicked a lot of butt in the run game, and at a certain points, we're absolutely driving these guys off the ball. So much so that
Tyler Booker got a penalty because he just finished a block.
That was absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, if I had a chance, I would have talked to Tyler. It's like, man, I'll take that penalty 10 times out of 10 if you're going to play like that. That's how I want to see our guys play.
We'll live with finishing block penalties. Like that's the kind of penalty we're okay with. So 100% agree with you there. Let's talk about the Cowboys defense that bent a lot on Thursday, but didn't quite break. We'll talk about that unit next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. This holiday season is one of the best time for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes in the NFL, and it's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, and it's available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. The whole process is easy. Deposits and withdrawals are quick, and you can keep everything flowing and keep your eyes on the game. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. All right, Landon, I want to talk to you about this Cowboys defense because they've had a lot of really poor performances this year. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is actually one of their worst. I know they only gave up 23 points. I know they've given up 30, one or more points in 6 different times this year. But the reason why this one was so disappointing is that you had a 39-year-old Josh Johnson playing behind a makeshift offensive line where they had no Larry Tunsil. Their center, Tyler Biadasz, was out. Sam Cosmi, their best offensive lineman, he was out. Chris Rodriguez, their starting running back, was scratched right before the game started. And yet you let an offense average 8 yards per play. The Cowboys completely dominated the number of plays, the time of possession, and yet it didn't really matter. Washington was able to move the ball up and down the field. We talked about it on the crossover show, like trying to get turnovers and get sacks in this game. They had 2 sacks, no turnovers. Don't feel great about their performance in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys won by a touchdown and had twice as many offensive plays, if I'm not mistaken, than Washington
Twice.
did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not great, man. And I agree. I think, again, I'll be Mr. Context till I die. I think the context here is ultimately why this performance was so bad, right? Like you mentioned it, a beat up offensive line, an aging quarterback who was on the street basically a few weeks ago. So the fact that they were able to kind of go out there, and it was just like as soon as I think it was the second offensive play they had, they completed like a 10-yard pass, and I was just like, it's just going to be, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I mean, I could go out there and complete 9 yards per attempt. I feel like against this defense, like it's really just frustrating. Right. And look, I think, Revel specifically had a really rough day. I think I'm not giving up on him because I think the tackling isn't going to get better this year, right? Like, I mean, he missed training camp. He's missed all of his opportunity. Like, that's something that is going to have to wait until the offseason, but it's really tough to have to live with, right? I feel like there are times when he's in the right position, but he's not quite making the play. I think he's just a year away from being ready. Absolutely. So right now it's about him going out there and taking his lumps. But, for other guys that are out there, it's like we saw basically all Kenneth Murray and Shamar James at linebacker, and it was about as terrible as you'd expect it to be, right? Like the Commanders were able to run the ball consistently. They were able to complete passes in the short yards and the hook zones that they were able to turn into 10 to 12 yards gains. And they were able to consistently move the ball despite the fact of all the things that we talked about that they had going against them. And even when their starting left tackle went out, the Cowboys weren't able to really do anything with that. So, I mean, just with the context that it added in, it was just another absolutely pathetic performance. And then last thing, the tackling across the board, not just with Revel, but everybody was just awful. And just, kind of endemic of what's been happening for most of the season on defense.
I think there were only 2 players that really stood out to me in a positive way. And honestly, it's kind of frustrating that it's Quinnen Williams, who you traded for, was it a month and a half ago, and Jadeveon Clowney, who's at the tail end of his career. Those guys have been playing well all season, so it's nothing new. But I think it's frustrating that you spend all these draft picks, in the second, third, fourth round, and none of these guys are really feeling like they're turning out outside of Donovan Ezeraku. But I don't think he played particularly well in this game either. He didn't really give you much juice as a pass rusher. You're struggling at linebacker. Your safeties look really, really old. And we're going to talk about this offseason. Like Malik Hooker's got 1 year left. Donovan Wilson's at the end of his contract. It feels like you might need 2 safeties on top of 2 new starting cornerbacks, on top of another linebacker. It's just a reminder. This game was another reminder of just how many guys in this defense are going to need to be replaced over the next 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need at least one safety, it feels like. I mean, honestly, I think it's got to be Donovan Wilson that's got to go because it's just been rough, and
It's time.
yeah, and I think it's frustrating, but it's not surprising to see guys like Diggs still look confused out there, at certain points, and not and then getting, what's more of a microcosm for their season than Diggs getting a horse collar tackle on a guy that he didn't even complete the tackle on, right?
Well, there's another play early on in this game where I think it's like a 2nd and 10. And Diggs is like 10 yards off a receiver. And again, maybe that's not his fault. He's
Maybe.
off coverage. They throw a little speed out to Terry McLaurin, and then you miss the tackle and you get up the field for like 15 yards. And it's like the whole point of playing off coverage is maybe you can jump a route, or at least you're going to be able to limit the gain after the catch. And that's not happening. So it just feels like they need a complete reset on defense, a new defensive coordinator, a lot of new talent, younger talent. We've got one more game to watch of this defense before hopefully it starts to change.
Yeah, hopefully it turns next week turns into evaluation mode on defense and offense. Let's see what you've got in some of these younger guys for another week, and then I think it's basically time to clean house and see what you can build for 2026 because this is just not rough. It. Yeah.
All right. So the Cowboys are 7-8-1 going into the final week of the season. They play the New York Giants, who are pretty clearly in tank mode. Feels like we are destined to get an 8-8-1 Jason Garrett season here. We'll see how it turns out. We'll see what the Cowboys end up picking in the first round. But I hope you guys enjoyed the win on Christmas. Listen, it's been a tough season. It's been a long season. Enjoy this win. We'll talk about draft positioning later and all that kind of stuff. Go enjoy your families. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will be back on Monday to continue breaking down this game. We'll get you ready for the final game of the season, and then we'll get you ready for the Cowboys offseason. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Check out the Everydayer Club. You can get all access to this show, including ad-free episodes and exclusive Discord server access and so much more for just $5 a month. Check it out at the LockedOnCowboys.supercast.com link. Enjoy your holiday. Again, we'll see you guys right back here on Monday.